All right, I think we can start.
Sure.
Welcome everyone. This is our last Sitecore user group meetup in Columbus for this year. We actually started this user group this year, and we are meeting with people and Sitecore community every month. And this is the last meetup in this year. Today, we have Jose Neto. He is going to talk about ASP.NET Core and headless services. So, Jose, floor is yours.
All right. So hello, everyone. I appreciate the opportunity to be here and share this presentation with you all. I think it's been a while since my last participation in a Sitecore user group with Himadri, I think like 2 years ago. So I'm happy to be here once again. And the topic presented will be ASP.NET Core and the headless services. The purpose of this presentation is to give you an overview of headless, to discuss, demonstrate, and review the latest technologies available for a developer to start that journey. And we'll have a demo and also some time for questions and discussion at the end of the presentation. Before getting started, a few words about me. My name is Jose Neto, and I'm currently a Sitecore developer at Nishtech. I've been working with this platform for the last 7 years. And I also try to help the community through my blog by sharing articles about daily problems faced by developers, marketers, and content authors. This year, I was also awarded Sitecore MVP. And every year, I also participate in the Sitecore Hackathon. And on the last one, we did a good contribution in the category Best Usage of Sitecore PowerShell. So I recommend you checking our module. It contains very useful features, especially for content editors. Why ASP.NET Core? Firstly, ASP.NET Core is an open source and cross-platform framework. So you can easily host your web application in Windows or Linux. If you are a Linux enthusiast like me, you would probably try to explore this compatibility furthermore. It is lightweight and fast. And what is the advantage for Sitecore teams? Well, it is one of the ways of getting in touch and starting to use the Sitecore Headless services. If you're not familiar with the concept of Headless CMS, let's put in this simple way. What is a Headless CMS? A Headless CMS is a system where the content that is in the Headless CMS is delivered via APIs. It is called this headless because the presentation layer is separated. On this slide, we can see a clear separation between the Sitecore instance and the website. This separation in layers open us to a range of new possibilities and ways of usage of Sitecore content. On the right side, on the slide, there is a watch consuming directly from Sitecore. So what is being consumed? The watch is purely consuming content from the CMS, but not wrapped inside an HTML. In this way, the presentation layer can be adapted exclusively for the watch. It doesn't necessarily have to be a website. The fact is we're seeing a proliferation of IoT devices like watches, smart speakers, and this requires headless CMS. And sooner or later, your customer will require from you too. A couple of years ago, we had the release of JavaScript SDK, This allowed the development of applications using the headless capability. For our Sitecore community, it was very exciting, but for a very specific public, was even better. I believe if you were a front-end developer in those days, you received the announce with open arms. This was very good for front-end developers. It is easier for a team that's already working with React or Angular to start learning a little bit of Sitecore and consuming the headless services than it was for a backend developer. With the release of JSS, a few more technologies were introduced, and layered service became available. Now the content and the HTML are decoupled, and it was possible to get the content in JSON format. But we must keep in mind that headless is no longer only JavaScript. Sitecore 10 introduced the Rendering SDK. The Rendering SDK is external to Sitecore and gives the capability of using the headless services in .NET Core. For Sitecore teams, it is another way of implementing headless services, headless websites. With the SDK, it's not mandatory the usage of front-end technologies. This alternative is available and gives more firepower for developers. For those already engaged in daily usage of C#, but sometimes not a particular fan of Angular or React, the thing that in their souls are backend developers, they can be willing to learn this technology and start the development in .NET Core. It is important to remember that Sitecore is moving towards .NET Core. Sitecore is not a monolithic application for a while already, and there are pieces like Identity Server and Sitecore Horizon that are already in .NET Core. Let's talk a little bit on how this works. The Sitecore layout service, it is an endpoint that provides JSON formatted Sitecore content. So headless services give you the capability of getting Sitecore pages in JSON format, even with the applied personalization. Basically, the user of the application will make a call to an REST API endpoint and it will return JSON with a lot of information like ID, page title, content field, and any other fields that may have. Then your application will interpret and make this useful in the desired way. So let's review the parameters necessary to make a call to the layout service. We have the item, the path to the item relative to the context site homepage. SC lang, it is the language version of the item that we wish to retrieve. In this case, I'm not using this parameter. SC API key, the API key is a string that you previously configured. It is a Sitecore item with the key. Tracking enables or disables analytics tracking for the layout service. Default is true. And as you can see on the example, the layout service retrieves you and you see the JSON result. This is a real example of a return of a JSON result. So let's dig a little bit. Check the field item name called home, followed by the text field with a lot of content on it. Then the field title, it is Sitecore Experience Platform. We have also the field database name. It's web. It contains also the item ID. There is the item language. In this case, it is EN for English. And you can also see the template name. Here we have another example of a JSON file. Note that now we're seeing a formatted JSON file, which is easier to us to understand what is going on. We can see the item path, also the language, in this case, English. And below, check some fields. We can see the navigation title. It contains a property called value, and the content it is home. So check the header logo property. This is a Sitecore image field. You can see the properties like source and have the full URL of the image. And also we have the alternative text and if, and all this will be used in a data model and rendered in the page later on. In this slide, we can see a Sitecore Hello World website in .NET Core. By looking into the files, we can identify new files and difference in the structure of the website compared to a regular .NET website. First, the www root folder. This folder contains the CSS and JS files. There's also the app settings.json. In this file, it's been configured the level of login of the application. We have the runtime config. We can see information about the version of the .NET Core. And we have the web.config. It's a very small compared to our regular web configs, pointing just to the main DLL of the project, which in this case, it is hello world.dll. So by look for some characteristics, now I believe we can easily identify one website running on .NET Core. If you're familiar with the structure, and in case you have one Sitecore instance running on your local environment, you probably already have a website in .NET Core that's being used. In this example, we can see the Sitecore identity server. It is already developed in .NET Core. By looking at the application pool, we already can spot a difference. The .NET CLR, it is selected no managed code instead of 4.0. On the right side image, we can see files that gives us a hint that this website is running on .NET Core as well. If we dig deeper on the web.config, we will also see the line that points to the main DLL of the identity server. Same standard that we saw previously on our Hello World. So the solution. The solution's important for all developers, and it will be used on daily basis. How are we going to architect the solution inside of Visual Studio? Well, the solution will contain code that will be developed in .NET Core, and this code will be deployed on our .NET Core website. We can see this in the arrow in yellow. This code will contain the front-end layer of our website, but also the solution will contain code developed in .NET Framework, and this code will be deployed in the Sitecore instance. So it is a mixed solution. We cannot forget the solution also contains Sitecore items like templates, renderings, and it is common for any Sitecore solution. And this will be normally deployed to our Sitecore instance as well. In this slide, we can see some real .NET Core using the Rendering SDK. The SDK provides us some tag helpers. Those tag helpers will help us to handle the Sitecore content. You can notice the syntax. It is a little bit different from what we used to do, but it's completely readable for a .NET developer. For instance, in order to render the title, we can see the usage for SC text, ASP for title. And in that place, it will render our title, right? For the usage of partial views, we can see the second tag helper being used. The code passes the model called contact. And on the right image, we can see the model binding in action. Check how the contact class is being mapped into the Sitecore fields. Since the information is being transmitted over JSON format, we can see the usage of JSON property matching the field name. In this case, contact link and contact image. For the first Sitecore field, it is hyperlink field, and the second, it is an image field. In this slide, we will explore a little bit more about the tag helpers. The image on the left, we can see. Oops, I think move it. Wait a minute. I guess, yeah, this, yes, this tag helpers. Yes, sorry. In this slide, we'll explore the tag helpers a little bit more. So it is possible to recognize the tag by the name. It is you can see the placeholder tag helper there. And there we can see the header main and the footer placeholder. On the image on the right shows us the implementation of a component. On the first arrow, we can see the usage of SC link. It is a hyperlink tag helper. And just below the SC image, it is the image tag helper. So it is pretty much the same that we are used to do, but it changes a little bit. So how this new implementation will look like? On our international, on our IIS server, International Information Server, we have the identity server, the XConnect, the Sitecore instance, and now we will have another website. And this will be the .NET Core website. This new website will be able to communicate with the Sitecore instance. And in order to do that, we'll need to set up some configuration on the app settings.json. This file will contain fundamental parameters to enable this communication. So let's check some parameters. First, we have this parameter, the instance, which is the URL of the Sitecore instance. The second one, the layout service path. The third one is the API key. The other one, we have the enable experience in editor. And this is very important because this will tell us if the rendering host will support the experience in editor or not. And finally, the rendering host URL. Now that we have our new website configured, we can clearly see a front end and the back end instance. The couple is pretty clear. Let's remember that the rendering host contains code in .NET Core, and it can be hosted by Windows or Linux server. And how this front end communicates with the back end, it is through API calls. So the front end website will make a call to the headless services that will provide the output in JSON format, and the page will be shown to the user. In this image, we can see an X-ray of the layers. Let's understand how the rendering host works. The visitor sends a request to the web server, which activates the rendering host web app. The layout service client fetches the relevant content and presentation data from the Sitecore Headless services. The layout service client passes the data model to the rendering engine. Then the Sitecore rendering engine renders the data model, and your code and static resources into the response and return us to the visitor. And let's talk a little bit about the experience editor. It is one of the features constantly used by the content authors. So you might be wondering, now that we have two servers, how the experience editor will behave. Will that work? And the good news is yes, this scenario is covered by the SDK, and it will work. Content edited by the tool will not be affected. It is important to keep in mind that front-end elements and files are not in CM anymore. Therefore, Sitecore CM needs to communicate to the rendering host server. So there are configuration parameters that Sitecore will read, and it will know how to contact the rendering host. So basically, when you open the experience editor, the CM server performs a post to the Headless services endpoint provided by the SDK, which will bring the HTML with the necessary elements to make the experience editor work. So how to get started in this new world? The first one, using Docker containers, it is getting the starter template. Sitecore offers an example with the complete environment, CM, CD, host is configured. Every part of the infrastructure is already done. This way you can open the site easily without thinking too much about infra, and your team can focus directly on .NET Core. The website contains some components and good examples that will help you and your team to understand what is necessary to start the development. The second example is the Sitecore MVP website. This site is currently live, and if you apply to the Sitecore MVP this year, you used this website as an user. It is also a very useful resource since it will provide you examples on how to implement components. And the third one, it is this basic company website. This one that will be used on the demo. So there are plenty of resources already available on the internet for you to help you and to guide you on this journey. Or you may prefer to use your current infrastructure and use your Sitecore instance and install the examples on this instance. And this will allow you to learn how the setup works. It will force you to get in touch with the configuration files, deployment, SSL issues, and understand how the whole set works. So let's go for a quick demo and check how will be this Sitecore in the Sitecore in .NET, Sitecore website in .NET Core, right? So I will open here for you first the website. This is my Sitecore instance. And we have here this example provided by Sitecore, the basic company website. As we are used to Sitecore items, we have the home item. We have another page here, products. There are some buckets here. We also have a page called services. We have some page components related to the services page, so nothing new here. So, but the thing is, let's go to the experience editor first. This experience, how I said that before, that in order to work this time, the experience editor needs to get in touch with the rendering host, right? So I have a rendering host here running on my Linux. And this, it is the example provided by Sitecore, but compiled and deployed in a Linux Ubuntu server. And here we can see the basic company website. We see that page that we saw, the Sitecore item services, products, list of products. And I open here the terminal. The terminal, I'm running this website locally on my Linux. So it's really interesting that you can see how things are working, and if they are working, you can see that on those logs. So in this line here, we can see the call being made to my Sitecore instance. So here we can see clearly the call that is made to the services, and it will return that JSON that we saw in the slides. And coming back to the experience in editor, the experience in editor works, and in order to render this experience in editor, we must keep in mind that the files are not, the CSS, the JS files are not in the Sitecore instance anymore. So they are running on my Linux. So here we can see that our instances are communicating in both sides. So in order for Sitecore to work the experience in editor, Sitecore needs to make a call to rendering host and get this data and make this experience editor work for you. And by the other hand, when we access this Sitecore Linux, we are accessing the rendering host, and this rendering host is making the call to the Sitecore, and we can see the call here, and we can see this communication working in both directions. So this is the thing that you must keep in mind. You can have a Sitecore instance running normally, but your rendering host can run on a Linux instance, or it can run on a Windows as well. It can run on a normal IIS server. There is no problem with that. But here I just try to run that on Linux in order to dig a little bit deeper and to see the issues that will come with that. And here you can see that works. So you can have your rendering host running on Linux. So let's get back to the slides. So yeah, as I described you, we were able to see that running on Linux. We are able to see the demo. We saw that experience in editor works. And well, basically, that's it. Thank you very much for your time, and I hope you enjoyed this presentation. And you can explore this subject among other topics on my blog as well. And Merry Christmas to everyone.
Hey, Joseph,
Yes.
I have one thing. You shared some links for the sample sites.
Sure.
Is there any way you can like paste it in chat box or anything if you have readily available?
Yes, I do. I can I can grab those examples and let me try
that one.
Yeah, those here, right? So let's try to.
Or I'll reach out to you on Slack.
Oh yeah,
I think
can be. Let's see if I can grab here easily.
Yeah, so I think Jose, you can actually share the slide with us, and we will use that for the recording, if that's okay.
Sure, yeah, no problem. I'm sending the links here. I'm not, if you can see on the chat window too.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's a great.
Two.
Do you have any
One.
question?
It's missing one. Yeah. Yeah. If anyone has any questions or topics to discuss, happy to.
So, Jose, go ahead, Buster. You have a question?
Yeah, I did. So I was wondering, so you have the CD, old school, right? We have the CD, which used to serve up the website. Now it's
Yes.
just hosting the layout service. And what your Linux.NET 3 ASP.NET site is consuming the layout service.
Correct.
And you have to install an app per site. So the CD, of course, can have any number of sites on it. Can the actual front end Linux server, is that like one of the sites being served up on the CD will be served up by each of these web servers, or is it still a many to many? Like, can you host many sites on the ASP.NET Core front end?
You have the CD, right? You have the CD server. It is the Sitecore now would be, I would say, the back end, right?
Yeah. Right.
And we have the front end, which in this case, in the presentation here, it is a Linux. You could run this front end on the same CD server that you already have, and use the same infrastructure. So you have this, you can reuse the same CD, I would say. But it's, if you don't want to do that, if you want to have a different server just for the front end, you can have it too. It's not a problem. Like the front end just need to be able to communicate to CD. You could see the code that's being done here. The thing would have just an adjustment and a CSL. On the CSL, you need to install the certificates between the services, and they need to be able to ping the IP, be in the same network, this kind of things. So you can have multiple like servers in Linux and just put the front end there. It will be up to you. I mean, I'm not say that to have a limit on that. This infra is totally up to you. Here the point is like it's separated. I would say the layer is completely separated. Even though if you want to reuse because of cost or whatever, the infra that you already have the set that you already have the CDs, and you don't have more budget to like have a different server. You could put the .NET Core in your same CD server, but this website will be make a call to the other website, to your Sitecore backend. So the respect to the layers will happen. So they will be this separation, but they could be in this case they will be in the same CD server.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
So I'm not sure whether you were actually thinking of launching multiple instances of the ASP.NET Core rendering host.
Right.
So that will be another scenario where I think Docker container is more makes sense, because basically you can scale out as much as you want, I guess. If it is running on Docker, you can actually put many instances of that and do that scale out. So
yeah, that makes sense. Thank you.
Jose, so about showing this in the experience editor, did you actually, I think you are showing some configuration change you had to make. Can you actually show that slide quickly if you can, and what configuration you had to do in the
yes, I can. 1 second.
I'm just interested to see how it is going back to the rendering host.
Sure.
And,
So I will open here the. So can you see my screen, right? So can you see my
yeah.
Sitecore folder here? Cool. So project. So here it's where we would configure the website, right? So I will open the configuration file here. So here we will have the configuration of the site itself, but we also have more things here, and this it will point you to the rendering host. So that's how the magic is performed.
Okay, so that URL http://sc101 core.dev.local, that's actually pointing to the Linux environment.
Yeah, this in this case here, I'm not pointing to the Linux. I have I think kind of Baxter asked in my local. I have 2 rendering hosts running. I have one running on my IES here, which is my SC101 core, and I also have one in Linux. So I have 2 rendering hosts running here, but for the experience editor, I am pointing to my IES on to my rendering host on IES. Okay. So here I think kind of show you the scaling thing that you are looking for. I mean, can I have like a, I don't know, 3, 4 render? You can, if you can put the like you can scale out this as much as you can. There is no problem. So and on this this is the same exactly the same files that I deployed on Linux, but here it's deployed on IES. So it doesn't change much. It's basically it's the same DLLs. The deployment process will be pretty much the same. The config files will also be the same too. So it will not change much. So and on your configs, you on the rendering host, right? On the ASP.NET Core, you have a config that's pointing back to your Sitecore backend instance. So when the user lands on the front end website, on the ASP.NET Core website, the call will be made to the Sitecore backend. Sitecore will process all that. It's gonna return the JSON, the JSON Sitecore page for you per se. Then the SDK will work on that, you know, and then show up the page for the user.
Yeah, great. So that was my question. If anyone has any questions for Jose? All right. Okay, looks like there is no question. Thanks, Jose. This was a very good presentation of ASP.NET Core Rendering Host. And this is the last meetup of this year. We wish everyone to have a happy holiday and happy New Year. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
All right.
Merry Christmas, y'all.
Merry Christmas, everyone.
Thanks. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks. Bye.